continue. So welcome everybody. My name is Sophia Jacob and I am the president of the Social Planning Council of Ottawa. It's so wonderful to welcome you all to our 93rd annual general meeting. So before I get started, I wanted to do our land acknowledgement. I would like to start by acknowledging that we live and work on unceded Anishinaabe territory. We would like to thank the first people of this territory and other Indigenous peoples for sharing this land in order for us to continue our work. We give land acknowledgement to honor all First Nation, Inuit, and Métis people for their valuable contributions and to recognize the reality of colonialism. It is also a reminder of the imperative for reconciliation. This means, among other things, acknowledging the past, present, and future, and working together to achieve respect, trust, and equality in all of our proceedings tonight and for the year forward. We must hold ourselves to account on the path of reconciliation. I would like to welcome all the members and our partners, our partnering organizations and supporters and the staff of SPCO. As well, I would like to welcome and thank some of our funders who are with us tonight. So from the United Way, Eastern Ontario, Aaron Montague and Abid Jan, welcome. From Ottawa Community Foundation, Rebecca Aird, welcome Rebecca. From the City of Ottawa, Ian Scott, welcome Ian. From the Ontario Ministry of Seniors and Accessibility, Katie Crowley. And from the Bell Let's Talk, Sandy McDonald. So thank you all for joining us tonight. Finally, I would like to introduce the rest of our board. So I'll ask you all to wave at everyone. Liz Habibi, she's our treasurer. Nicholas Ramdas, he is the executive member and our recent past president. Rob Campbell. Howard Cohen, he's also one of our past presidents. Trevor Hache. Jillian Keefe. Deanna Markick. Khalid Nizimi. And Julia Sneed. So by now you are all familiar with the Zoom. So if you have any questions during the AGM, please either raise your hand or use the chat function. So I would like to move to now approve the agenda. So please review the agenda, which was sent to you ahead of the meeting. Are there any changes or additions requested? If yes, please let us know. So there was a poll launched for the motion to approve the agenda for 2021. And if you could choose in the poll, if you are in favor or if you oppose or if you abstain. There's three in the poll, right? 3 motions in the poll, or sorry, Lise, there's 3 motions in the poll.
We can just respond to question 1 for this to go round, and we can bring it up again for the next rounds.
Perfect. So if everybody would now vote in the poll to approve the motion, we'll just give you another second to do so.
It doesn't allow you to
just
do
one. Oh, yeah. Okay. So there's 3 motions to choose from.
Just abstain on the remaining motions, and so vote on the first one and abstain on all the others, and we'll be fine.
Okay.
All right. So we'll give them another 10 seconds.
Yeah, we're only at 6 votes, so we'll need to give it a bit more time.
Okay. Does everybody see the poll?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Just making sure.
This is for members only, right?
Yes.
Yes. How many do we have now, Lise?
We're at 11.
Okay. So if you guys are having trouble, we just need to vote on the very first motion. Everything else will ask you to abstain from and then submit the poll.
So you do have to make your way to the bottom and click on submit.
Submit. Okay, how are we doing with the poll?
We're at 13 votes at this point.
So we need a few more.
All right. All votes were in favor, so I think we can
Perfect. We can move
state
ahead.
that it was approved.
It was approved. So would someone please move to approve the agenda?
Okay, I will.
Awesome.
Sophia,
I will as well.
Second, okay.
seconded by Nick. Okay, and approved. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Let's see. I would like to ask Mai to launch the Zoom poll for voting on the approval of the agenda for anyone and any member who cannot vote online. Please vote verbally through the phone.
So sorry, Sophia, I think we just did that.
Oh,
We did
sorry,
the poll for the agenda.
I apologize. Sorry. Mai already posed the clock. Never mind. It's okay. Mai, I'm not calling on you. No. So now we're moving to approve the minutes for 2021. Please review the minutes from 2020, which were also sent to you in our package prior to you coming to the meeting. So,
And if you're okay, Sophia, I could share them on screen briefly because
absolutely, sure.
yeah, okay,
Yeah,
I'll do that right away. So we can just walk through them very quickly.
Yes.
Um,
Can everybody see these minutes from 2020? We're good?
Yes, we can see them.
Awesome.
Okay. Now I'm just realizing that these are the correct minutes. So, okay, so call to order, the approval. They're very brief minutes. Apologies, there's no detail on the president's report or the executive director's report. That's my failing as secretary. We'll try to take more detailed notes this year. So they're pretty straightforward minutes. Just going to scroll through them very quickly, and then we can launch the poll. So that is, and you have copies. The version that you received was had a bit less text in the president's report and the executive director's report. So these ones are are complete.
Perfect. Okay, so are we relaunching the poll?
So this time it would be a vote on the second motion. If Maya, I don't know if we have it as a second poll or you have it as just one. Perfect. Thank you.
To approve the minutes for 2021 annual general meeting for Social Planning Council. So please launch your vote now and submit.
And maybe we could ask for a mover and a seconder while we're doing that.
Okay, I move the motion.
Thank
Khaled,
you.
thank you.
Second?
I second it.
Oh, Chandra?
Okay, thank you, Chandra.
And do we have a results from our poll?
Still coming in very slowly. If people can find the poll and vote, do you approve, oppose, or abstain?
Alrighty. Are we good?
We've
With
only
the-
got 3 votes. Maybe we need to do it by show of hands. I'm not sure what's
Okay.
wrong with the poll here tonight. Maybe we can remove the spotlight and get people to just raise their hand if they approve. Because at 53 people, it doesn't make sense that we have only 3 votes.
Maybe they're not seeing the poll.
I see 21. I don't know.
Okay, good. So I'm glad that you're seeing what needs to be seen.
Yeah, it's going up. So now there's 22.
Okay, perfect. Good. So again, if anybody can't see the poll or can't vote on the poll, if you can put something in the chat.
Just let us know, yeah.
Yeah.
How many are there now, Mai?
Does 23?
And we're all in favor, I'm assuming, right?
So far, all in favor, yeah.
So I think since we're all in favor, we'll just move forward. So thank you all so much for taking the time to answer the poll and taking the vote. Much appreciated. I'll now move to my president's report. So I'm not gonna say too much with you guys will all receive it in the annual report that'll be sent to you after the meeting. But I just, again, over this past year, we've suffered, I would say we've suffered a lot, but as a community, we've been resilient. We've been resilient. This past year was really difficult for myself and many of my family members in my community. Yesterday was a whole year since George Floyd had passed away. And we did get a guilty verdict, but it's not something that to say that it's to be rejoiced. You can only take so much from that guilty verdict. There's still so much to be done within the communities, these communities, whether they be here or across the border. With racial inequality for racialized people, it is an everyday journey. It's nothing that we can say, we can just step out of. It is something that we carry every day. And so we've had great allies be with us and join us on this journey. And I'm so thankful that I've had my SPC family, really be there, particularly through the difficult times. I became president during a time of difficulty through COVID, and again, the board members and the staff have just been a rock. They've really been there to help. Whenever I didn't know something, or just to support this entire journey. COVID has been hard for everybody, particularly around mental health. That is something that has affected many people because, so much death, so much dying, and also seeing our loved ones go through so much loss. It has taken a toll on everybody. And we know by a large percentage, mental health and mental health services have been something that has been utilized, but also something that, more and more people are needing that assistance. And so again, SPC has been right there and doing their part with assisting people when need be, especially when we're talking about food security, helping our seniors, transportation, medication, all of these things. SPC has been there to be able to give direct services for, and I'm just so proud of all the work that SPC's done there. Around youth employment, we've really expanded our youth employment. You'll read in my president's report a couple of the things that Hot Shoe has been doing. And, we just couldn't do it without all the great members, the funders. I want to thank everyone for supporting our organization. I'm really appreciative of the first year of being president. I never thought I would be able to come president of SPC, but here I am, and I really appreciate all of the support. It really means a whole lot to me. I don't want to start crying, so I'm going to hand this over to Diane to be able to give her ED report. But again, I want to thank all of the members, all of the volunteers, the staff. I love you so much. You've been great. You've been solid as a rock, and all of the board members. I love you guys so much because you guys have been so solid too. Thank you so much. With being with Social Planning Council of Ottawa, we really appreciate all of you. So I'm going to hand it over to Diane to give her executive director's report, and we will resume after Diane is done. So thank you so much, Diane. You're on mute, Diane.
Well, I'm muted maybe. Sorry, my camera is broken, obviously, but you're not going to have to look at my face. So I wanted to start again by really welcoming everyone for coming out. We really appreciate you joining us for tonight. And I'm going to give you a whirlwind view of what we did this year. It's been an astounding year in the world and an extraordinary year at the SPC. And I believe we have a little video to kick this off. So if I can turn it to Mai, she's going to launch a quick video.
Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. Just a minute here. Oops.
With audio,
One
right?
second. Apologies. 1 second. It's playing. You'd think after being on here for almost 2 years, I'd know how to do this. Okay, ready? Can you see this? Okay.
That's great. Thanks so much, Maya. And that video was put together by our communications interns. So thanks to them for that. We will be sending the annual report out to you after this meeting, probably tomorrow. You'll get it. And the theme for this year is responding to community needs together. And that you have a small sense from that video about just how many things the Social Planning Council was involved with and how many people were involved. That's a very small taste, and as I said, I'm going to walk you through this a little bit. But as we go, I want to take the opportunity to thank particular groups, particular stakeholders who have been part of this journey to respond to community needs. I'd like to start with the funders, some of whom we have with us today. They were mentioned already, but I'm going to mention them again. We had tremendous support from funders this year. It was a very challenging year in the sector. The SBC, the board and the staff and our community partners decided very early on, basically at the last AGM, that we would scale up rather than scale back. And we dramatically ramped up and we approached our funders and worked with them to leverage resources to be able to respond to the extraordinary moment. With us, we have a couple that I would like to mention. United Way has been a great supporter of our pardon me, our equity work, our research and data, the Neighborhood Equity Index, our support for seniors, and our digital equity work, among other initiatives. Also, support for Hit the Streets, a street outreach organization. And we have with us today Aaron and Abid from United Way. So thank you to you two. You can bring the word back. Also, Ottawa Community Foundation just provided extraordinary support through their Rapid Response Fund, leveraging some foundation money from other foundations with whom they have relationships, and then the emergency funding from the federal government. And with that funding from Ottawa Community Foundation, we were able to support probably about a dozen community organizations so that they were enabled to reach folks who are facing particular challenges during this period. And that support was quite extraordinary. Similarly, the City of Ottawa, who provides our core funding, provided social service relief funding, which allowed us to respond to urgent needs within the community, direct services for food, requirements for digital devices, transportation, and some supports for mental health. And they also provided us some youth employment and economic development support, which enabled us to really respond to the youth employment disaster, which was created by COVID. And I'd like to recognize Ian Scott, who's here today with us. Prior to COVID, we had indicated that we were moving more strongly into support community-based mental health activities, particularly for racialized communities. It was a huge issue coming to us, and in that we had received, just as COVID was hitting, some generous support from the Bell Let's Talk Fund, and we have with us Sandy McDonald here, who supported us in that. We also had support from the Ottawa Community Foundation around that, and from Trillium Foundation. And these funds from these funders, Bell Let's Talk and the others, used arts-based strategies in order to provide engaging ways to support people with mental health, to talk about what mental wellness looked for them, what kept them well, and make suggestions of what could improve the situation in Ottawa for racialized communities. And finally, I think Katie Crowley is not here after all, but the Ministry of Citizenship, the Ministry of Seniors and Accessibility has also provided funds for some seniors planning. So really, our funders provided extraordinary support to us, and you'll see when we present the financial statement that our revenues this year were higher than last year, and most of that we were able to provide to community organizations, direct service for communities, or to other community organizations. We have always relied on, and each year I like to recognize the community leaders who run grassroots groups, are key volunteers within the community responding to a range of needs, particularly the leaders of our ethnocultural grassroots groups serving seniors, the ethnocultural grassroots groups serving families and children, and some direct service, some services here helping to address basic needs and particular issues. Again, this year, the bulk of our work was delivered in partnership with these groups, and the funding that we were able to leverage, we were able to provide funding to them so they could continue and expand their work and their unique response to COVID and anti-racism, which really brought a cultural lens to responding to those who were facing the most difficulty through COVID, who were most disadvantaged by it. You'll have a chance in small groups to meet a few of our partners who are on the call here. But at this point, I'd like to just share with you a little image, a little graphic that's been done, which is a summary of our work for this year, which will give you a sense of the scope of what we did and how critically important the role of our partners are. So obviously you can't see the detail here. Because I want you to get the scope of this first, and then I'm going to start to zone in a little bit. The Social Planning Council has been a catalyst for sustainable social and economic development for 93 years. And for many years, we have been very clear. For 15 years, we've been very clear that the key strategy for us to effectively deliver on our mandate and to achieve our objectives of inclusion and justice and access to basics and a strong voluntary sector is to work through partners in the community who are well positioned to do that. It's a community development approach. It's central to the way we operate. And what you're seeing here is each one of these color strands is a core issue that we tackled this year, where we ramped up additional activities. And each of those, so we have with green, we have our food programs, that was access to basics. With the purple, we have families and success at school. Blue is digital equity. The brownish is youth employment, an effective voluntary sector, leadership and civic participation, anti-racism, mental health, seniors, neighborhood and rural equity. Any of those could have taken all of our time this year. They're huge issues, but we were able to tackle these in a meaningful way and advance the work because in responding to each of these, we have what are the core SPC projects and our role. And we also have activities that are community development activities and led by sponsored initiatives and other organizations. So for example, in terms of our access to basics, we dramatically ramped up our collaborative food pantry, serving over 800 families on a regular basis, 800 households rather on a regular basis this year. But we also were able to support 4 other organizations who themselves are led by volunteers who are doing very effective work in the community, and we're meeting very distinct needs in the community that we're experiencing gaps. With respect to food and essentials, 4 of those organizations were Hit the Streets, Migrante Ottawa, Gotta Go, and Ethnic Food Box with Nutrition Blocks. In every single one of these areas, you can see the scope of the partnerships where we have the SPCs work, but for example, in families and success at school, all of our activity around that to respond to the impact of COVID was delivered through partnering with organizations, normally small grassroots organizations, often Black, Indigenous, or led organizations led by people of color, supporting their capacity, leveraging resources for them so that they can do their effective work more effectively. And that is a core role of the SPC, and it's a core strength of the SPC. So to the extent that the SPC had an extraordinary year, which we did, we had an extraordinary year because of the scope of the partnerships that we had. And I'm just, as I'm talking, I'm going to just move the screen around a little bit so you can start to see this. We're so appreciative. We can't overstate the importance of the role of these organizations for the social fabric of Ottawa. And it's a privilege for us to be able to support all of you in your work. In our report, you will see that we have identified, we had, just shy of 100 of our own volunteers. But we had another 400 volunteers that we were able to support, even with COVID and lockdown, through the work of these other organizations. It's really quite extraordinary. And I want to say how much we appreciate all of your work. I don't have time, unfortunately, in my little slot here to thank all of you, but everyone on the call here who is not a staff of the SPC or a funder is in this category. So, I would like a round of applause for all the volunteers and community leaders we have here who have led such incredible dynamic work this year, responding to community needs. So we'll call it a virtual. So that was a theme that I wanted to highlight for you. I will say too, picking up a little bit from what Sophia was talking about, the year obviously was framed around around COVID-19 and around anti-racism and responding to just the waves of racism and race-based violence that we were witnessing around the world. Not that it hadn't been there before, but it was really brought into focus. And for the SPC, it was a year for us to clarify with our mandate, what was our role with respect to those? With respect to COVID, which impacted people at the most basic level, their ability to feed themselves, to get out, to stay healthy, to do basic things like work and access education. Our role focused in on responding to direct needs. And we ramped up distribution of digital devices, food, transportation supports, covering utilities, these kinds of things in our own work. We also, as I said, supported a range of agencies who then could reach those who would not otherwise have been reached because they had those intimate connections with people facing barriers to access the other services. Our other role with respect to COVID was to advise with respect to the needs of our broad stakeholder community. And so we provided some cultural competence and perspective at multiple tables, both as the SPC and representative volunteers represented the Social Planning Council family of partners to put forward at a range of tables how to more effectively respond to the distinct needs of people involved with the SPC. And the other role of the SPC with respect to COVID was to really identify from that, what were the systemic issues which we had been talking about, which now were brought into such stark focus, and how could we use the clarity that was brought because of the pandemic to lead to ongoing changes, policy changes that would make long-term difference. And key issues there where we have played a leadership role with our partners have been digital equity, proper supports for seniors, and mental health. The issue of mental health was a huge issue for us this year. As I said, we were moving into it even before COVID, and then COVID so significantly impacted that. And we have a whole range of activities that were participatory action activities, arts-based activities, research, convening around best practices to highlight that, and are involved with a range of community stakeholders who are looking to address this at a systems level to respond much more effectively than we had in the past. And again, the social activities, which are the heart of much of what we do with our partner organizations, it was validated that the social activities and the social connections are really the heart of what keep us healthy and stable and enable us to connect people into resources. So again, COVID identified that there is no substitute for supporting peer supports. And we hope that message carries on long past the pandemic being brought under control. The other issue, of course, the other core issue is anti-racism and responding to anti-racism and race-based violence in all its forms. And with that, we identified, we explored again and we identified what was the role of what's the core role of the SPC there? What is our lane with respect to that? And we identified that our particular niche was to expand and amplify our support for leadership within those communities. We have always supported, at least since I've been here, we've had a priority of leveraging resources to support BIPOC-led organizations, and we ramped that up dramatically and made clear that that is the way to go. If we want to address these issues, we have to support the leadership of Black, Indigenous, and people of color-led organizations in the city. And we were able to host or leverage or obtain and pass through several $100,000 of money for those communities to provide a leadership role. And our other role there was to provide information and convene people around discussions around these issues and provide some support for those strategizing for systems change. So those were the areas where we positioned around anti-racism, and we have made a commitment to expand that work going forward. So in that not very elegant presentation, I really think that the graphic speaks for itself. It's astounding the work that we did. We provided direct services for about 4,000 people this year through these networks. We saw the significant expansion of leadership of BIPOC communities. And we are very grateful for the opportunity to continue on this journey with all of your organizations to really ramp up and hold some wins in the upcoming year, both around mental health, around health equity, around a proper recovery economy that's more equitable, and around anti-racism.
All done, Diane?
Yeah.
Thank you so much for the wonderful presentation. It's amazing, all of the work that's been done by SPC. With that graphic showing, of course, that was done by Para. She's an amazing staff member. Of course, it shows everything that SPC's done over the year, and it's just dynamic and breathtaking, all of the work that's been done. So thank you so much. Excuse me. I'm now going to pass it over to Lise Habibi. She's our treasurer, to give her financial report. Lise? Oh, Lise, you're on mute.
I lost my mouse. At least one of us has to do that at every meeting, right? Oh, you're on mute. Okay, so that was my turn. Thank you. I will try to keep this brief, but of course, both Diane and I are open and to answer questions, and we welcome them. you should have received the audited financial statements as part of your package for the meeting. And I'll start with pages 5 and 6 on the statement of financial position. You will see that the SPCO is in a solid financial position. I think because Diane and her team stepped up and were able to provide those supports and to demonstrate that we could serve the community, we did receive funding and were able to do a lot of great work. I could show the statements on screen while I speak. Would that be helpful? I'm just going to look for some nods on screen. Yeah, a few. Okay, let's go ahead and do that. Obviously, you haven't had tons of time with the documents, but a few, I think, things that I would mention here. You'll note that our overall assets at the end of 2020 are higher than at the end of 2019. And again, that just reflects the great work that the team has been able to do in convincing our funders that we can support the community. Now, you know, by proving that they could do it. A lot of the money, if not most of it, is set aside for specific projects on which we have to deliver or on which the team has delivered in the first part of 2021. So you'll see that under liabilities, in the middle of the page there, there are deferred contributions of 581,716. So that's money that is already earmarked towards projects. And this is typical of most years. You'll see that we had a large amount in that line last year as well, where the SPCO is granted money for projects and that's delivered over more than 1 year. So the money carries forward. Our overall surplus, or actual surplus, if we can put it that way, for this year is actually kind of small at 12,673. I'm also pleased to note that our Community Foundation Endowment Fund has gone up. We're almost at that $25,000 limit where the earnings from the fund can then start to be used within the SPCO. So if you know people who wants to contribute to a worthy cause, you might want to suggest that they actually contribute funds or money towards that fund. I'm going to move quickly so you can see here the breakdown of the surplus and the 12,673. On the statement of operations here, again, a very busy page. Not going to go into all of the details, but you can see that general operations, so this is money that's not tied to a specific project, is a lot higher than in previous years. And mostly that's because of the COVID, the Canada Emergency Wage Subsidy, which we were entitled to receive over the course of the year. And yet, you know, this still represents a very small part of the overall budget. And to the point that Diane was making, SPCO works in partnerships. And so most of the money that comes to the SPCO is actually earmarked for other organizations. And you see that under mostly Synopsity and special projects, and also to a certain extent under the research planning and networking columns. A special note, because I think it's important that we pay attention to this, the membership fees are down. We're not sure why, but it's probably a combination of COVID hardship and also not having in-person meetings, which is typically where people would join or renew their membership. So it would be great if you haven't already done so. I've put the link in the chat earlier. I'm putting it in again now. If you haven't joined or want to renew your membership, I would invite you to do that and to share the information with others. It's just another way for you and your friends and family to support the work of the SPCO. And, you know, there are a few of us on the board who would like to look into SPCO membership and how we could improve it. So if you have any suggestions on that, would love to see your comments in the chat. You don't have the details of the expenses on this sheet, but they are there in the financial statements on page 14. And I'll just do one more, and then I think I'll stop here and ask for any questions. So again, the statement of cash flows, it's again good news. We're in a good financial position. And that's particularly important given the uncertainty that we're stepping into post, I keep trying to say post-COVID. COVID's not over yet. So, you know, with what we're living with the ongoing pandemic and what's going to happen when we move into the next phase. Regular funding programs have been disrupted while everybody focuses on COVID response, and it's hard to know what's going to happen once those supports are no longer the priority. So it's good to have just a little bit of breathing room as we step into that and see where things take us next. So I will stop here and ask if there are any questions on the audited financial statements. You can either raise your hand or just jump in with your question.
I see one from Trevor.
Okay, Trevor? Okay, it's in the chat. Are SPCO staff receiving a cost of living increase to their salaries in 2021? And then did they receive one in 2020? And could we prioritize this in 2021 and 2022, please? So the board did vote a cost of living increase for 2020. That was applied at the beginning of 2021. We have not yet made the decision for this year. And this kind of goes to the comment I was making earlier around general operations. It's always a bit of a delicate balance to ensure that our staff are properly remunerated for the great work that they do. And at the same time that we don't raise salaries to the point where we have to let people go because there's no longer enough money to go around. And it's a really tough conversation every year. And maybe we don't always make the right decisions, but we do our best for the organization and for our staff as well. So maybe not responding specifically to your questions there, Trevor, but hopefully that's helpful. Anything else on the audited financial statements? In that case, not seeing any more questions, I would move that we approve the audited financial statements for 2020 and ask for a seconder.
Okay, I do.
Thank you, Khaled. Could we put the vote to the poll up, please?
Sorry, the only poll I have is regarding the accounting firm.
Okay, so if we can just go with either an electronic or a physical show of hands. So in your reactions button at the bottom of the screen, you can just put a thumbs up if you're in agreement. If you're allowed to vote, obviously only members are entitled to vote. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. That's okay. So I have, we won't do an exact count, but I have a large number of votes. Do we have any opposition to approving the audited financial statements? And sorry, those of you who raised your hand earlier, if you could take them down just so we don't double count you on both sides of the ledger, that would be helpful. So Rob, I'm seeing a thumbs up. Is that a vote for opposition or is it just a leftover thumbs up?
I'm having trouble with my icons and flagging. Sorry about that. I'm trying to take it down.
I should have had people actually do the crying face if you opposed. That way, you know, we would have been more clear. Not a scientific exercise, but I would state that we have approved the audited financial statements and would move now to the appointment of auditor. So again, the board recommends to the AGM that we continue with the same audit firm that we have in recent years. And we recommend that you appoint the firm McKay Duff LLP as auditor for 2021. I so move. Do I have a seconder? Chandra, I see your hand and the poll is up. Go ahead and vote, please.
भाइ मेरो अर्को मिटिङ रहेछ कि एसपिसिओ को
सुरु भयो अहिले कि छैन?
So again, if you're not members, don't feel the need to complete the poll. We'll give you another 30 seconds for those who are members, and then we will end the vote. Okay, so polling has ended. All votes are either in favor with 2 abstentions. So we will also call the appointment of auditor approved. Thank you. And I think it's over to Nick now, right?
Yes, thanks, Lise. Let me just close this. So hello, everyone, and nice to see a lot of familiar faces and a lot of new faces. I'm always very pleasantly surprised by the turnout in these events, and always great to see people again, and especially now since we're in a virtual world, it's hard to get out to actual events like I used to, so it's great to see some people reconvene in these types of forums. So right now, what we're going to do is we are going to do the nominations to fill the board of vacancies. First, I just want to recognize a couple of outgoing board members. So the first is Nicholas Harrison. He completed a partial term and had to step down because of conflicts of interest. He had a great opportunity, but in the short term that Nick was here, he was very energetic and contributed a lot to a lot of discussions and programs. So we were very fortunate, even for the short period of time that we had him. And then the second outgoing member is Anil Sukija, and he is here today. And nice to see you again, Anil. And so Anil served almost 3 years, almost the full term. And obviously with his experience in the community and heading the ICCC and his experience with seniors, ethnocultural seniors, he was extremely valuable to the SPCO and the board in the discussions surrounding some of those topics and additional topics. So we're sad to see you go, Anil, but obviously you're a busy person and very valued in other areas. So just want to say a thank you to both Anil and Nicholas for their time with the SPCO. Okay, on that note, we have to actually fill the vacancies that we have and appoint some additional individuals. So 2 current members of the board have come to the end of their 3-year term. They've been great contributors and are recommended for election for a second 3-year term. And those individuals are Khalid and Dina. So what I'd like to do now is just give Khalid and Dina an opportunity to speak briefly about how why they'd like to contribute to a second term on the board again. So maybe we can start with Dina. You're on mute.
Thank you. We're all getting the hang of this. Thank you. I've been on a couple of boards before this one, and I just never found one that actually contributes so profoundly to the community on so many levels. Today, I can honestly say that chart that Diane put up for me was absolutely mind-blowing because I'm a visual person, so seeing the effects, seeing the impact, seeing the influence, seeing that this incredible positivity and support in the community, I just know this is an organization that is exciting and it is powerful and it has so much potential, and I would really love to be part of that.
Great, thanks, Dina, and I can definitely hear the excitement in your voice, and we're very happy to have you. And so the second person is Khalid. So maybe could you briefly describe why you'd like to have a second 3-year term?
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Hope you all are surviving during these difficult times and stay-home orders. Anyway, I've served for 3 years with the Social Planning Council of Ottawa, and I feel this is a very good platform for all those who want to serve the community. They do a lot of work, quite diversified activities, and there's a very dedicated team. So I thought that if I continue, I can contribute more and have an opportunity to serve the community. And especially, I would like to focus on basically the affordable housing, the mental health well-being, the police response to non-violent health crises, and discrimination due to race and color. So I hope the team, work with the team and able to achieve something for the betterment of the community. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Khaled. Okay, so in addition to Khaled and Dina, and there were two members that had to step down. That was Anil and Nicholas. So we have a total of 4 vacant positions on our board. And so through an open process, including the invitation to the membership, the nominations committee is recommending 2 great candidates, in addition to Dina and Khaled, to fill the 2 vacant positions. Their brief bios were sent to you ahead of time, but they are both present today. So I'd like to give them an opportunity to speak about a little bit about themselves and why they would like to join the SPCO and serve on the board. So maybe I can start with Sonia.
Hi, everyone. Sonia Howard here. It's great to see everyone's faces. I am a member of Tsawwassen First Nation. I live in Ottawa, and Tsawwassen is just south of Vancouver in British Columbia. And so I consider, and having lived off reserve pretty much my whole life, I consider myself an urban Indigenous person, essentially. And the reason I'm most interested in supporting the work that the Social Planning Council of Ottawa does by serving on the board is because I'd like to do what I can to support the SPC in expanding the work that it's already doing, and also continuing to support and amplify and make space for racialized, minoritized, and community organizations and partners. I believe strongly in peer-led capacity development, essentially. And even that phrase, capacity development, is challenging. Yeah, on whose terms? Who decides what capacity is needed? And I believe that should come from the people who are directly involved in and experiencing and most familiar with what they identify collectively and together of how they would like to be supported in what and how they do. And so that's a bit of a long rambling way of me trying to say that essentially in my daily work and in my involvement in the community, I strive to be an anti-racist, anti-oppressive support, and I strive to bring as much of myself as I can in a fully embodied, fully present way. And I'd like to support the SPC in continuing to do its good work. And also, I had some experience, a great experience with the SPC years ago, supporting a previous iteration of their youth employment programming. And I'm still in touch with some of those participants today, in fact, and the even 10 years on, hearing how impactful that is, and that sense of family that Sophia mentioned continues. So that doesn't always appear on evaluation or summary or audited financial statement reports, but I believe those feelings are crucial and important for helping drive community forward together. So thanks.
Thanks, Sonia, and well said. The second candidate is Chandra Hapuarachi, and she's no stranger to the SPCO. So Chandra, if you can say a few words on yourself and why you would like to serve on the board.
Hello, everyone. My name is Chandra, as he said, and I'm so glad that I was asked to become a board member for the SPCO. I have been working with SPCO for the last 5 years, and I have worked for a number of advisory committees and helping the seniors group, just like Anil. While being the board of director, he worked for seniors group. I am planning to do the same thing. And I've been in Canada for 40 years exactly, and I worked for 3 provinces. I must have worked for as a board of director for more than 10, 15 organizations, mostly as the treasurer, and sometimes I was the auditor. And currently I'm serving about several organizations in Ottawa as the either auditor or a board of director or a treasurer. So I really was impressed last year AGM too. I've been to about 4 AGMs of SPCO, how SPCO going to serve not only seniors, but youth, and also the racial issues. So whatever the Sophia mentioned earlier, I really appreciated that. And also I have seen how much work Diane put into this organization, raising funds and doing all sort of works. And also I really appreciated Sibyl's work, Sibyl Braganza, the seniors group coordinator. So we work like a team, like a family, some number of us in number of committees and helping SPCO. So I would like to continue my service for going forward for several years in any capacity that Diane or Sophia or anyone want to my help. And I wish all the best for the SPCO. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Chandra. And that was a very humble description of yourself, given I've seen your resume and it's extremely impressive, and you could have spent this entire time speaking about it, all of your accomplishments in the community. Anyways, so all 4 candidates have accepted the nominations. I would like to ask the members to accept the slate of the 4 nominees for the board as presented, specifically Khalid Nazami, Dina Marich, Sonia Howard, and Chandra Hapurachi. And if these 4 members are approved by the membership as per our bylaws, we will not have nominations on the floor. Would someone please move to approve the slate of the 4 nominees for the board as proposed by the nominations committee?
I so move.
So Lise. And would someone please second the approval?
I will second it.
I see Jillian and I saw Anne, so pick your pick, Lise. Okay, and so the poll has popped up, so can everyone please vote?
The vote is higher than for all of the other motions, so I think people are more excited about this than they were about financial statements.
I think there's no doubt.
We all are.
Yeah.
Okay, so Mai or Elise, can you let me know when we have?
We're good. All in favor.
Okay. All right. So all are in favor. So welcome to Chandra and Sonia to the SPCO board. We're super. We had a pretty strong team coming into this. We're pretty excited to have both of you on board. It's going to be an excellent year, an excellent few years moving forward. So welcome.